So, what did we do in 2020? Well, with the high amount of celebrity deaths, Twitter canceling everyone, another controversial election, the end of Adobe Flash, and the you-know-what pandemic, it's a lot more reasonable to ask, what didn't we do? And it was still crazy for me outside of that, with moving to a new state and going into an in-person school with very few students in my class, and being the only one out of all of them who likes Harry Potter. But that's besides the point. Anyways, so as for movies, due to the pandemic, they were very few and far between. Some of them provide a silver lining to the storm cloud of 2020, while others added salt to the open wound of this year. Today, I'll be ranking all the movies I saw in 2020. These are ranked based on my opinions, so if you disagree, then good for you, I don't care. Anyways, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell, and let's start at the obvious bottom. As I am pretty sure you all expected, it's Artemis Fowl. Even as someone who has never read the original books, this movie was still hot garbage. The plot of the film has no idea what it wants to do with itself, while at the same time repeating certain plot points to the point where the writers may as well assume your IQ is equivalent to a chair, visuals that make a low-budget mockbuster look like it was made by James Cameron, and some of the worst acting I've seen in the history of film. I cannot begin to explain how bad these performances are, ranging from this security guard who looks like Morgan Freeman, to this Hagrid lookalike who can stretch his mouth in an extremely uncomfortable way, to the main kid who makes Tommy Wiseau look Oscar-worthy. I can go on and on about how terrible this film is, but all I can say is, there's much better stuff on Disney+. There's The Mandalorian, there's a ton of great shows and movies which Disney has already made, and some other films we'll get to very, very soon. Trolls World Tour. Okay, before you get your pitchforks, let me explain why I didn't like this movie. I will admit that unlike Artemis Fowl, the visuals here are fantastic and among some of DreamWorks' best, and the scenes that utilize 2D animation are also fun to watch. However, the writing isn't just among DreamWorks' worst, but also some of the worst to be used in an animated feature, completely plagiarizing Infinity War, but cutting out all of the tension, character development, and subversion that made the latter so good, leaving to every tired trope in the book, along with characters who either serve no purpose like Hickory or the James Corden one, or are complete idiots like Poppy, who's already dumb as a brick in the first Trolls, which I also consider the worst film DreamWorks has made. No wonder why it got onto the number 8 spot in my worst animated films of the 2010s, and this will probably be one of the worst in the 2020s. And to think DreamWorks used to rival Disney. Oh, speaking of Disney. The Mulan remake. Definitely the worst remake Disney has made. Mulan stands as a tedious, boring, terribly acted Mary Sue film that takes the fine as it was original and cuts out all the action, songs, humor, and tension that made it enjoyable. As such, it feels alien to the original and could end up confusing people who both have and have not seen the original. Say what you will about the other Disney remakes, but at least they maintain most of the stuff from the original as to not confuse people who've seen them. But here, a complete 180 was pulled and resulted in a film that was bad on an objective level and also a moral level. Yeah, it was actually filmed near Chinese concentration camps. So now I feel just a tad bit guiltier having watched this, knowing that innocent people were being tortured nearby. And well. The Croods: A New Age. The first Croods, in my mind, stands as one of DreamWorks' lowest lows, with its poor writing, detestable characters, weak animation with some nice backgrounds here and there, but the use of motion capture makes the film look somewhat uncanny, and annoying tone being the cause of that. With the sequel, it's slightly better since the animation doesn't use any motion capture and makes the characters feel more lively and energetic. But the problems that the first film had are carried over here, and yeah, the sequel's pretty bad. Granted, despite the great animation with its colorful backgrounds, decent use of 2D animation for some scenes, and overall polish the characters are given, as well as a decent score from the guy who did the soundtracks for the Lego Movie and that one Wii game, Boom Blocks. The writing is extremely similar to the first with its execution, and brings with it an embarrassing amount of predictability and cliches. The characters are annoying at best and flat out jerks at worst. There's also weak humor, and a message that treats the audience like they have dementia with how much it's hammered in, making this slightly less than the bottom 3, but that's not saying much since a bad movie is still a bad movie, and not even Peter Dinklage can save it. Must suck, huh? He's a great actor. WW84. This'll also get me some hate, but I genuinely didn't like this movie. It's long, it's boring, its characters are underdeveloped, it's covered in cliches, and it's extremely forgettable. I've even forgotten most of the film just from talking about it. I doubt much else needs to be said. It's just another Mary Sue film in an age where women are powerful because they're women. And don't try and call me misogynistic, okay? I love watching movies with women as the lead, as long as they're good, but here it's just... it's not good, okay? Scoob. Easily the most soulless, corporately manufactured piece of sludge we've received from this year. Despite having some okay animation, the writing is absolutely horrible with its predictability and cliches, characters who only serve as either annoyances or nostalgia bait, and the humor just being horrible. It mainly just consists of celebrity jokes. Like, I mean, what kind of 7-year-old would know who Simon Cowell is? Does the movie think it's being adult with the amount of pop culture references it shoves in your face? No, it just makes it more stupid. Plus, this is supposed to be the star of a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, and I'll admit that Tom and Jerry look somewhat promising, but Scoob shows us not how to start a cinematic universe, like, at all. Monster Hunter. There are some great visuals and an amazing soundtrack here, but boring everything else. Hardly any character development, weak story, everything is boring. I went to the bathroom watching this, and I missed absolutely nothing. I know this is a really short part of the video, but honestly, there's not much for me to say here. It's pretty boring, although you might like it if you've played the games, but I haven't played them yet. I've only played the Rathalos boss in Smash Ultimate, so, yeah, this film's kinda boring. Next. The SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run. Despite not being released in the US, I did watch the leaks that surfaced on YouTube back in August, and honestly, America isn't missing out on much. Despite the animation being a visual delight and the Secret Formula reveal song being fantastic, the rest of the film is tedious, boring, and at times can feel alien from SpongeBob, since the show was known for being weird and goofy, but at times the movie tries to get dramatic and serious, which is nothing like the yellow sponge I'm used to. Thankfully, I'm certain Steven Hillenburg won't be flipping the bird at Nickelodeon from heaven too much from this, as Camp Coral and the 2019 Super Bowl halftime were literally disgraceful to his entire legacy, whereas Sponge on the Run was just a simple little eye roller that also served as some nice little eye candy. Seriously, I recommend watching this film only for the animation. Everything else about it, it's just, eh. Sonic the Hedgehog. While not as bad as I thought of it at first, it's still a flawed movie in my eyes. Granted, the visuals are nice, some of the jokes do hit, and Robotnik is really fun to watch, but at the same time, Sonic can be pretty annoying at times, and the pacing can almost be as fast as Sonic himself. Maybe its inevitable sequel will be better, I don't know, but if there is one thing that I can say about the Sonic movie, one thing aside from the positives I already brought up, it's that we didn't get this abomination from the first trailer as our final Sonic. Because if we got that Sonic, then this would probably be below, like, really low down the list. But thankfully we didn't, and I just get to stick with it being okay. Bill and Ted Face the Music. As a fan of the first two movies, I went into this brand new, higher stakes installment cautious but hopeful at the same time. After it ended, it proved itself worthy with the signature charm and comedy of the first two movies, some decent visuals, and a message on unity that feels especially important for the time it was released, what with the pandemic and BLM protests. It may not be the best of the year, like there's still some problems here and there, like the storytelling can be a little bit cluttered and the acting wasn't really the best. But like aside from that, it's definitely a solid way to cap off the franchise. I'd consider it better than the second, but not as good as the first, but still, definitely a solid way to cap off that most excellent franchise of movies. The One and Only Ivan. Another film released to Disney Plus that was supposed to go to theaters. The One and Only Ivan definitely ended up being one of the better films of the year, since it's faithful to the book it's based on, its animation on the animal characters looks great, and actually does a good job at having realistic animals show emotions. I guess Disney learned from the Lion King remake. And there's also some nice, heartfelt moments throughout the film, which is mainly from the dialogue between Ivan and Ruby. Although the next three films I found way better, this one was still pretty nice and enjoyable, so if you have Disney Plus, then check it out, you won't regret it, it's definitely an enjoyable time. Onward. Is it one of Pixar's best? Definitely not. There are some story problems here and there, and the character designs could have been better. Is this still strong in its other aspects? Absolutely. The animation has the classic Pixar tradition of looking great, the characters are all enjoyable in their own ways, the heartfelt moments can pack an amazing emotional punch, and the way the film has even the smallest, most trivial plot detail play a significant role later on is enjoyable in its own way. The only way I can see too many other problems would probably be with the Simpsons short that played before the film, as that was kinda weird. But Onward still shows how even if its release was unfortunate, the movie itself was still a lot of fun. Tenant. Whoa, this movie, it's pretty hard to describe this one, but I'll try my best here. So, Tenant. It's weird, but it's an absolute blast nonetheless. Great editing and cinematography, a fantastic soundtrack, an interesting, if not confusing plot, and some good acting. Now, there are some problems that keep it from the #1 spot, like its poor sound mixing, and the way the film can be really confusing at times, but with those small little nitpicks aside, it's still a great addition to its great director's filmography. And now, the best film of 2020. Soul. Easily the best movie of the year, and in my mind, the best modern movie that Pixar has created. Everything about this comes together to create the best possible film that 2020 has to offer. The writing being great, and having shockingly deep, thought-provoking commentary on life, death, and all that sort of stuff. The animation being absolutely phenomenal, with both New York and the U Seminar looking amazing. The soundtrack, for the fact that it has 3 composers, all of which are somewhat rookies, being the best in any Pixar film, and the emotional beats the film provides hitting every time. It's almost certain it's going to make you cry. It truly shows how just when you think Disney is hardly taking any risks anymore, Soul comes along and gives its existential, philosophical take on life and death, where it explains to not live how you want to live, but rather to just live. And with the insane year we had in 2020, that message couldn't feel more true to heart of many people that were trapped in quarantine for months on end. So yeah, Soul is the year's best film. It doesn't matter what overly religious people might have to say about Soul. It's the best movie of this year. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter if you like Disney or not. It doesn't matter who you are. Please, I beg you on my knees, watch this film. If you don't have Disney Plus, then just find a friend who has it and they can screen share it to you. I mean, that's how I played it for my good buddy Rylan. Just, I beg of you, watch this film. Like, it's worth it. It will change your view on life in general, really. I know I'm going off script in this last little part. I just want to gush about my feelings for Soul because it's amazing, okay? I don't really know any other words that can really give this movie justice, because honestly, that would just cheapen it. So yeah, Soul is 2020's best film. If you haven't seen it, and thus concludes my ranking of the 2020 movies. Thanks for watching the reviews of 2020, and stay tuned for Isaac Reviews 2021 beginning, if Connected gets a release date, then maybe by late January, mid-February, but I can confirm it'll start around late February with Tom and Jerry. So yeah, Isaac Reviews 2021 coming very soon. Thanks again for watching, and have a happy and safe new year.